So this next presenter is a really close friend of mine. I know her very, very well. And let me introduce her to y'all. It's me. What's up? So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Dr. Cheryl Ingram, and I own two small companies. One is a diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting firm called Diverse City, and then the other is a small tech firm called Inclusology. And today, I'm going to be talking to you about Inclusology and how we are fundraising money, but I'm going to tell you about what our journey has been like to get there. All right? So, let's get it started. Now, this is the story. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to rap for y'all. So I've been working in diversity, equity, and inclusion for about 17 years now. And I had this existential moment of crisis working in diversity, because one of the things that I realized working in corporate spaces, educational spaces, et cetera, is that I wasn't seeing the change that I wanted to see happen as quickly as it should have been happening in systems, right? Everybody was having the conversation, but nobody was moving the numbers when it came to diversity. And so for those of you who think when I'm talking about diversity, I'm going to be very transparent, I'm pretty blunt, and you'll see that along my story. As a black woman, yes, I do talk about race. But I'm also talking about gender identity. I'm talking about age. I'm talking about sexual orientation. I'm talking about every identity demographic you think a human being could possess, right? And how we label them. So when we work in diversity, I thought about all of these things and how the system was not really moving the dial the way that it should to make all workplaces more equitable for all people, right? No matter what background. And so I decided to take this jump. I cashed in a 401k, and I had this moment of clarity because I've always loved science and working in systems. And so one of the goals that I had was, how am I going to build a system to make the world more equitable, right? So what does that look like? And I was like, I'm good in technology. I have about 5 certifications, but none of them are in software development. Like, they're all in IT and networking. And so you see the clouds above my head. I was like, okay, I have this idea about intersections and social identities, but I don't know how to code, right? So you see the binaries there. And I was like, well, how am I going to build something that makes the world more inclusive? So I've been running diversity assessments for a very long time. And some of you are probably like, what does that mean, equity assessment? So we go into companies and we run assessments to see where trends exist, where there are gaps where people may be being discriminated against, and what companies might be doing well in diversity. I'll get a little bit more into that, but that's the basis of how Inclusology started, was because I was like, system is fucked up and I need to fix it, right? And so I'm going to build a system that does that. I also curse, so if that offends you, I'm sorry, not sorry. All right. So I was like, enough is enough, right? I was like, I've been here for this long. I've been working in it. It's not moving. Like, how am I going to use tech to be able to change the system to stop people from suffering for who they are and how we've labeled them in the workplace? So I had enough. So I'm working on building the Saas platform. We recently just got to a space where we are past mock-ups and our first dev is now coding, and we are on the road to building our MVP. Yay, but this is kind of what the system looks like, right? So what Inclusology is it's an enterprise SaaS platform, software as a service, and we do 3 things. We look for insights into diversity, equity, and inclusion by running surveys across 14 different categories that have to deal with diversity and 16 different identity demographics, and still growing. Then we create benchmarks for companies that says, here's how you're performing compared to other companies based on a global diversity and inclusion benchmark. And then when we point out the issues that companies have, our system is being built in order to give them solutions on how to fix it, right? So you get this rating system that says, here's where your gaps exist. And then you get these recommendations that says, here are your short-term and your long-term recommendations for how you need to fix the problem for the way that you are discriminating against people. And we are building a platform to do that for companies, which is really a need right now. Now, there's been some great lessons. There's been some hard lessons, a lot of things that I've learned along this journey. This is my second team. I started out originally with a team of 5, and within half a year, I lost 3 of them, right? And what happened is an interesting thing. Working in diversity, equity, and inclusion is not an easy task, right? Some people think it's glamorous. They love to be the global head of diversity and inclusion, but it's not as easy as you think. I'm very interested in hiring underestimated, underrepresented populations, and so when I'm looking to see who fits that mold, I have to understand that people are coming from companies with baggage, right, depending on who they are. And when you work in a startup that's under-resourced, it's a little harder to support those people. So I lost 3 members of my team that needed the time to go work on imposter syndrome, to work on healing, and I didn't have the systems in place in order to be able to support them. So I had this other moment of clarity where I was like, okay, if I'm going to build this system, I need to make sure that I am building a company that is actually supporting the people that are struggling from the problems that we are trying to solve. So I had this moment of clarity about people come first, right? It's one of my biggest lessons was to remember to focus on people. Even though I was building a system built on people, I had to learn that that system had such a need that I oversaw the fact that it was coming into my own company. And so I had this moment of clarity. So we've had some big challenges. One that I've dealt with is, as you know, working in a startup, you need money. And so I am raising funding, $1 million. I've had investor bias. I've joined pitch competitions. I had a very homophobic, conservative, bigoted investor in the Seattle Angel Conference who gave me a really hard time, and also offered a law firm money to sue my company because he said we were discriminating against white males in the workplace because he heard the term diversity. So Philip from the Seattle Angel Conference, I am putting you out there. If you know him, tell him I said that. Also, I've learned a lot about self-preservation, right? Because when you have identities that are marginalized and oppressed, and when you're working with identities that are marginalized and oppressed, trauma can surface, right? And so as I've been working in this industry for 17 years, had to start to think more about working towards my own self-preservation and what does that look like? Because if I couldn't show up and be my best self, how was I going to be able to support somebody else to do that, right? My team retention. When you have no money and you don't have lots of resources and you are an underrepresented founder coming from a below the poverty line family, it's a lot harder to raise money. People are like, oh, just do an iFund campaign for family and friends. I'm like, my family lives in the ghetto. Y'all better check yourselves. It's not that easy. I send an iFund campaign to them. I'm like, so you're going to send some of this to me? Is this for us? Right? And so those are some of the challenges that I faced as an underrepresented founder who is underfunded. So what are some of the things that I need? I need $1 million for our seed round. I do. This is a journey to $1 million. We've been fortunate enough to get an investor so that we can build our MVP, and now things are up and growing. We also need some UX designers. I'm not ready for you right now, but if you are interested, I'm going to give you some information so you can reach out to me. And also, I am looking for a technical co-founder. So if you are interested, have a background in Saas platforms or even a willingness to learn about them, you know something about tech and helping to manage people, please come see me because I could use your help. I am building one company and expanding another into Los Angeles very soon, so I could use the support. If you know anybody who's interested in doing this work, tell them to come holler at me. If you want to contact us, it's Inclusology on every social media platform that's listed up there. You could also email me. My email is Cheryl with a C, Cheryl @inclusology.com, or find the time to come talk to me after this or at the end of this event. And that's it. Questions. I'm all right. Okay. Yes.
How do I convince, white male leadership to want to look at that dashboard? Like, what's the self-interest in fixing that problem?
Ooh, that's a great question. You're making me turn on my sales pitch.
Yeah, please.
Yes. So what we find is that diversity, equity, and inclusion, and specifically in retention in tech, companies are losing $64 billion a year when it comes to retention of diverse populations. And so if you are white male, or you are leading a company, and you are working, whether it is for the purpose of numbers, and you are trying to retain your people, and you want to save money, you would use our software. Or if you just believe that it's the right thing to do, right, and you want to know how your company is performing. The population is changing. The world is changing. People are becoming more diverse. And if you want to stay up to date with it and avoid some of the liabilities that you have based on the culture that you have created, you should probably look into our software.
Who are some of your favorite men that get behind you and support you right now?
What? Who are some of my...
Who's got your back right now that are like the white males that understand?
Let me think. Brett Green. Brett, for real, Brett does get it. He has been very, very supportive of our company and giving us a platform. And I'm going to stop there. And when I find some more, I'll let y'all know.
I feel you.
Mm. If you said women, that's different. But when it comes to male supporting Inclusology, it's been a tough road. It's been a tough journey for us. That's why I say meeting with investors has been so difficult, because that's who has the resources. That's who has the money, right? So when we're talking to them about diversity, it's interesting. I was on Twitter today, and I saw someone that said, when I hear the term diversity, I think of white genocide. And I was like, okay, wait a second. Usually don't respond, but retweet with comment. And I was like, you know, if you are a person who thinks that you shouldn't be having a conversation about diversity because of genocide, diversity is not about our revenge. And that surfacing for you is about your guilt and shame. That doesn't have a damn thing to do with us. So you should probably check that and then come holler at me. But it's been an interesting journey, and I'm being very honest that I could probably count on 2 fingers who those are, and one of them I can't even recall right now. Anything? Yes.
How has it been trying to build a network for people either like financially supporting you or even having this type of space be continuously invested in everything that you do? Because I'm sure the community is a big part of getting the word about Inclusology.
It's been a hell of a journey. People love to talk about diversity and inclusion, but nobody really loves to fund it, right? I mean, it's been interesting to get the traction. So the network and building it has been easy. To get people behind me to have the conversation has been great. That's been a resource that we have not fallen short of. But when it comes to other resources, that's been more difficult and mostly financial. So the networking part has been pretty easy because diversity is a hot topic right now. But the other components that come with that have been a major challenge. I have 2 more questions. I'm going to go here and then there.
Many large companies now have a diversity officer. They're real confident about the influence they have. But have you reached out to them to partner, and what has their reaction been?
So they've been great. We actually have, most of our focus groups have been consisted of people in HR and global heads of diversity and inclusion who said, when you get your software up and running, we'll sign a letter of intent to pilot it. Right? So it's like once you get the product, we'll support it. So that network has been extremely supportive across the globe, and we've reached out to multiple people in the U.S. and gotten some pretty good support.
You have very deep confidence that you easily fund $1 million.
Yeah, but a global head of diversity and inclusion is usually not an investor. They are a customer. Oh, no. It does not work like that. Yeah. I saw your hand up.
Yes, thank you for coming. And I have a question because I also work within DEI as well for side projects. And I would love to hear your thoughts. Because one of the things that I find is interesting is it's easier for people to step into diversity, but what has been some of your journey around actually doing that bridge into equity?
Yeah.
And that translation of what equity actually means in practice within a company culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, equity was the reason that I thought of building this software, because lots of people know that they have a problem, but they don't know how to solve it or what to do, right? So they know the why, they just don't know the how and the what. And so one of the things that I premised on building our software on was making sure that we got people solutions for equity, right? It's part of what our system is built on, and it's the way that we sell it is you got to know what your outcomes are so you know how to show up differently and support different populations. So the conversation about equity is new. I mean, people are still talking about D&I and not DEI. And so we've been working to change the language, but to get to people to understand that if you actually want to solve for diversity, equity, and inclusion, or you want to solve for diversity and inclusion, you need equity. And that's been very new to the conversation, especially in this area. And I think that's my time.